Spark encapsulates our passion for exploring the vast unknown of unvoiced thoughts and ideas.
I spent 2 decades of my life as a journalist traveling the world. And I was interviewing some of the most famous athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs of our time. So like an average month, let's say, 1 week I would be in New York in a penthouse interviewing a rock star when they showed up like 2 hours late. And then the next week I would be in a high security prison. So it makes for an interesting career, right? You're traveling the world, all these fascinating people. But it was without a doubt, always the stories of everyday people. And in particular, everyday people that had faced adversity, they had been through hard things. Those were the stories that stuck with me. So, exciting job, no doubt about it. It came at a great cost for me. I lived on airplanes. I was fueled by adrenaline, constant stress, drinking way too much wine, and little time for the people I love most, my husband, my 2 daughters, and my son. So I decided to quit. I walked away from big media and all that entails, which is big budgets, big audiences, and big paychecks. I knew I felt really good about that decision. It felt right to me, but I was lost professionally for someone who loves to create and loves to work. Eventually, I fell absolutely in love with podcasting. So intimate, that form of storytelling. And I decided I was going to find 100 people around the world who had survived unthinkable things and interview them about how they found hope and possibility on the other side of pain. So I knew with my background I could find the stories. That's what you do as a journalist. And I knew I could build an audience. I'm a very tenacious person. What I didn't know is that those 100 people would change my life forever. So the podcast dream is working. Apple puts us on their homepage. We were winning awards. We're finding inspiring guests. Like, it is all happening. And the guests, their stories are incredible. Like Rebecca Bender. Rebecca Bender is a sex trafficking survivor. She now works with law enforcement, and she started the largest online school for other survivors. Gary Mandel, one of my favorite guests. He lost his son, Brian, to the disease of addiction, and it is now running a charity reframing how we have the conversation about that disease. Maylee Chapin survived a terrorist attack in Nairobi while she was on a work trip. Damien Echols spent 10 years in solitary confinement for a crime he didn't commit. And my new friend, Anthony Brown, he's now a registered nurse, and he spent 23 years living on the streets without a home. I was in awe of their courage and their ability to find strength, wisdom, love, and even humor. I mean, the weight of the podcast, right? It sounds so heavy. But they were showing up just in awe. I was in awe of their courage and their humanity. So it was about 3 interviews in, and it dawns on me that what I'm really asking people to do is to stand in their hard truth, right? To show up as their truest self. And it's what I've always done as a journalist. And that I'm, in fact, asking people to do something that I am not willing to do myself. I have my own hard truth. Like all of us, I have my own painful story, and I am not willing to share it. My secret that I had kept for 24 years at that point was I have bipolar disorder. So I was diagnosed when I was 19 years old. I was emaciated. I was barely eating. I was barely sleeping. Things like a fountain or a passing car, I would shudder in my body. I was told I was mentally ill. I was told I would be on medication for the rest of my life, and I thought I was going insane. I got the help I needed. I tried a bunch of medications, found some that worked, most of the time. And I decided to hide it because I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. And I don't know that it was like a well thought out decision, but what I ended up doing was taking the manic side, right? All of the energy and the lack of sleep and the big ideas and the creativity, and I was gonna pour that into performing. If I ran fast enough, if I achieved enough, if I was good enough, nobody would notice the other parts. So I just kept those hidden. I would go on girls' trips, hiding my medication so carefully. I would, on work trips all the time, hiding in bathrooms, having panic attacks, and then going to hotel rooms and hiding in the shower and crying. So I was hiding. I was afraid that people would think that I was unhinged, unreliable, unlovable. Would they want to work with me? Would moms at my kids' drop-off talk? And it just became clear to continue this work and ask people, I needed to join them. They were brave, and it made me want to be brave. So I reached out to a dear friend who's also a former journalist. Her name is Holly Gordon, and I asked Holly to interview me. And I didn't put my best face forward. I put all of it, my whole story. And so Holly interviews me, and then eventually I get the courage to publish it, to publish the episode on my podcast. So the day comes, I drop the episode, I hit publish. From a lifelong secret, carefully hidden, to tens of thousands of people. Sharing something that you have hidden so carefully is terrifying. And then it's not. Within probably the next month, I got the first call. A mom said, people are generally diagnosed in college with bipolar disorder. So I get a call from my mom. My daughter has the diagnosis. I feel alone. I need resources. People start calling. My shame and secrecy turns into service. And then from there, my work was the same, but it started to change. My podcast episodes went from interviews to conversations. And my guests became my teachers. One of my favorite guests was Maya Moyles. Maya was diagnosed at the age of 28 with stage 4 ovarian cancer that eventually took her life. She was incredibly ambitious. She went to Stanford, got a big job at Google right out of college. And Maya told me she had always been busy and that cancer had taught her how to slow down and be present for her life. She said the old Maya on the day of our interview would have squeezed in a workout, done 3 work calls, dropped off the dry cleaning, rushed over, but the new Maya took her time. I opened the door and I had never seen anyone so breathtakingly present. She told me in the interview that she was making more space around the moments of her life. She was focusing less on achievement, more on relationships, the love she put into the world, gratitude for what was right in front of her. With a bipolar brain, slowing down your mind and the pace of your life it can be really elusive. Cancer taught Maya that, and Maya was teaching me. The moment that most crystallized how this podcast would eventually change my life was 6 months after I met Maya. I was on a trip with my 10-year-old daughter at the time, Katie, and we had just turned off the lights and we're lying in bed, and I hear her little voice next to me say, "Mom, what's bipolar?" Like, frozen. So I said what any smart parent would say. That's a great question. Can we talk about it in the morning? What am I going to say? So we had a long drive home. I asked her to listen to the interview when Holly interviewed me. So she sat in the back, and I could see her through the rear view mirror, and she'd laugh in the funny parts, cry in the sad ones, and then at the end she gets really quiet, and what's she going to say? And so she said, Mom, I was confused in the part when Holly said if you had a magic wand, would you take your bipolar away? And you said no. And then she said, I'm glad you didn't. I think it's your superpower. The way that Katie saw me is exactly the way that I saw the 100 people I have interviewed. I saw them with compassion. I saw them with grace. I saw them with complete awe for being brave enough to share their whole story. The end of this journey, and it's really 98 people. I have 2 interviews left, but it sounds better for a TED Talk to say 100. So in this process of interviewing 98, soon to be 100 people about pain and suffering, there are 3 questions that I've been asked, and I'm going to end this with sharing my answers. One is people say, how do you do it? You sit next to people who have had 90% of their body burned, who have lost their child in a school shooting. How I have learned to do it is A, to fight through the discomfort and the fear of being in that close proximity to suffering. And then I sit next to them in their story, in their pain. I ask them, tell me about your kid. How did they light up a room? Where do they show up in the world? After the accident, what did it feel like to go into the world and have people stare at you all the time? And then I get to see all the humanity of them, their humor, their love, their pursuit to make meaning out of their pain. And it's amazing. I walk away every time feeling hopeful. The other question I get, and it's not a question, it's a statement, which is, I heard your episode on this, and it really put things in perspective. I shouldn't be this upset about whatever, my divorce, my panic. And here's the news. All suffering matters. Comparing your suffering, whatever that looks like, anxiety, heartbreak, addiction, grief, body image, it is all real. And minimizing the suffering, your suffering, does nothing to minimize theirs. It is when we can hold space for all of it that there is healing. The last question is, how have you been changed by this podcast? For someone who spent 5 years interviewing 98 people about their pain and suffering, I feel incredibly hopeful. I am softer. I am less judgmental. I am more compassionate. I feel more connected to myself. I feel more connected to everyone around me. And my message to you is to not be afraid of your own pain and your own painful stories, and not to be afraid of other people's pain. There is connection and there is hope there.